Hello and welcome to eCommerce Matters, brought to you by BlackCurve. We help e-commerce businesses make pricing decisions. I'm Philip Huthwaite, the founder of BlackCurve, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Dr. Rob Horton, Product Director of BlackCurve. In today's podcast title is How Retailers Should Approach Pricing This Holiday Season. Spoiler alert, Black Friday, don't do it. Without further ado, let's get cracking. Did you like that?
We don't need to do the podcast now. We're done.
We can. It would be the shortest podcast in history, but to be honest, it's probably relevant. I think. So shall we get going? Should we generally spend about 15 minutes waffling on at the beginning? So why don't we get straight into the topic of choice? So we're looking at how retailers can tackle the holiday season in terms of their pricing and promotions. I think it's sort of fair to say we cannot support you with product selection, but we can support you with how to manage your pricing decisions during this period. So the first question I'd like to ask you, Rob, is do retailers need to do it in the first place? I mean, I'm reading a lot about the fact that retailers did many times over what they would typically expect to do in the November-December period, actually in April, May, right? I'm also reading that the people care about doing it. So should retailers do it? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a big one this year because this kind of holiday season, Prime Day, Black Friday, Christmas, Singles Day, wherever you are in the world, right, is very, very different to any other because, like you say, people have done a lot of online shopping previously. I mean, we've never had a pandemic before a Black Friday. So I think the first thing to do is kind of pull right back and say, like, what are you trying to achieve? What I'm going to throw the question back to you, I guess. You're the business owner around here. Black Friday is coming up. Often people run promotions or whatever. What's the point of Black Friday to you? What would you be trying to achieve in that period?
Yeah, and I mean, I think in the past, historically, trying not to be a politician and avoid the answer, but I think in the past, historically, there's been a lot of, well, everyone else is doing it, so I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. And I mean, if we look historically, the reason that Black Friday was around, Cyber Monday, it's important to note we're talking about the holiday season as a whole, like all of these special events that lead up to Christmas, as well as the Boxing Day sales and potentially the New Year sales, is that historically this sales period was to try and get the retailers into the black, right? They've had each year they would run up to November, and then it was like, oh, right, we've got to clear some stock, we've got to shift some stock, we've got to turn a profit, and they would typically make that profit in the final kind of couple of months of the year, right? And so, but then I think a few enterprising individuals started making this holiday season a bigger and bigger an event, and I think there was certainly a reason that a lot of retailers just decided, hey, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. But if we step back and look at this year, okay, this is not a normal year. I mean, certainly. We were talking back in 2019 and even 2018 that retailers should really be looking at themselves honestly and saying, do I actually need to do this? And I think if the fundamental principles of you partaking in these holiday season events is to return to profitability or shift unwanted stock, if that's not the case because you've had a stonking year, you've had a phenomenal year because you've had record sales, especially during the lockdown period, you've kind of got to start to ask yourself is, should I bother? I mean, I would certainly, come back to you saying, you shouldn't really. You've gone straight to the answer here by saying I'm going to partake. The question should be, what am I trying to achieve at the back end of the year, and does doing some form of promotion help me to do that? So does doing Black Friday help me sell more stock? Does it help me sell unwanted stock? Does it enable me to grow my mailing database so that come January I can sell other products, right? So what is the strategic objective that you're trying to achieve? And that is first principles. And I think sometimes that's forgotten. Okay.
I think that's a really, really good point. I think you touched on something else actually is that if you have less brand power, I think often you're forced into it, because it's either a choice of, well, we discount and follow the prices, or we don't sell anything for the whole holiday season because, I don't know, John Lewis or someone is running a 20% discount on Dysons as a throwback product reference to the early podcast. But yeah, and you kind of have to make the decision whether to follow or not. And by and large, some margin is better than no margin as long as it's within your strategic goals, rather than kind of writing off the whole of that period. I think you touched on something much more interesting, which is, I mean, it was funny when you said that we can't help with product selection, but I kind of, that there is a bit of that in which you can through pricing and price elasticity and demand. And I think it's understanding strategically what you're trying to do out of it. Are you trying to shift lines that don't shift otherwise? Are you trying to discount to grow your audience? Both of these things are kind of a strong argument for getting involved and discounting, because if you're selling goods that have like less than a yearly sales cycle, you might be getting more orders down the line because of it. So you're taking a hit on the margin initially and then picking it up. But I do completely agree with your point. I think it's kind of strategically why you're trying to do this, and understanding that even if it is that I have to just because I have to, because everyone else is doing it, I won't sell products otherwise, that is fine. I can't really hand on heart and say, no, stand strong, don't do that. Because if you're selling FMCGs and you're not discounting with everyone else, you're unlikely to sell anything.
Yeah, I think actually it's your product mix, isn't it? So if you've got branded, I always use the term bread and butter. It's probably the wrong phrase, but you know, unsexy products that are available from multiple locations. If major retailers are doing Black Friday, Cyber Monday events or sales on these products, people make buying decisions on those products based on price typically, and therefore, you know, whether it's Black Friday or not, you have to partake. Okay, but I think really if we step up, it's more around what's your whole promotional activity over this period. So are you going to have Black Friday everywhere on your website? Are you going to have deals only available this weekend? I think that's more of a higher concept thing than necessarily looking at an individual product level during that period. And if people move them and they're bread and butter, you have to follow it.
Yeah, and the really curious thing for me, the thing I can't gauge, is how much demand is out there at the minute. And the reason I have no idea is that if we're in the office, you're having conversations. So I chat to, last year, both Demetrius and I, Demetrius is one of our developers, but we're both looking for TV, so we're talking about it. And this year, I feel like I made most of my purchases, most of them cookware related, at the start of lockdown, because I was suddenly forced into all the bits that I've been putting off buying or whatever, that kind of would make my life a little bit better, but I wasn't there most of the time, suddenly became super important. So I bought them. And then rolling into Black Friday, it's hard for me to think of what exactly I'm going to buy. And then if I think further down the lines to Christmas, I mean, we're in the UK, Rule of Six has just come into play. I don't even know what the holiday season looks like as well. So normally I'd be buying games to play with my brothers when we go home and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know whether that's going to happen this year. I mean,
well, I mean, I have some stats for you, which could maybe support you. So, the Retail Economics Forum has basically said that consumer appetite, I suppose, is lower than it was last year to spend during the particular key holiday discounting events. So last year in their poll, 25% of people surveyed said they intended to delay a purchase until, you know, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or so forth. This year it's 21%. So it hasn't gone down massively, but that's a reasonable chunk of people. It's gone from 25% to 21%, and I think
That's a fifth.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's large.
yeah.
Like,
So I mean, I think it comes down to the optics that we have this year of, right, okay, in the UK we've had this furlough scheme. This furlough scheme's is slowly ending. Is that going to suddenly cause a recession, a deep recession, that therefore people who've had money but have been out of jobs are no longer going to have money because the safety net's been removed? So therefore those individuals, and you know, there was a lot, I can't remember how many people were on furlough in the end. It was massive proportion of the population, right? That spending could evaporate, right? So they might have been interviewed now and gone, right, I intend to spend, but that spending might disappear. You've touched upon it to say, well, the rule of 6 has come in the UK, which I was listening to Jeremy Vine's show earlier, which I normally shiver when I do, but my point being is that it is one of the things that they were actually saying is that, and you mentioned it about you go home at certain times and might spend money on a game to support that. Actually, if we were at home, that might encourage the same habits as at the beginning of lockdown, because at the beginning of lockdown, a lot of us decided, right, okay, I need to make my life a bit happier, and I'm going to get that buzz from spending money. Therefore, I might decide to do the same again. So this rule of 6 might have that influence. I'd challenge it this weekend with the sun, but the sun's coming out. But that's certainly things to consider. I mean, and this even ignores the fact that people were getting fatigue for Black Friday, for Cyber Monday, for many years gone.
yeah, you're right. It could be a bullet in a narrative, because we've been talking about how it's not useful for the it's very weird, because it's an artificial way to generate demand, right? And actually, if you look at kind of Prime Day and the rest of it, really what it is VC backed companies, well, no longer, but originally very aggressive companies using it as a way to dominate market share by saying, well, we can cut our margins, we can pull our audience into this platform. It's worked incredibly successfully for Amazon. And that's kind of brought the industry along with it, tied into, I mean, it's traditionally tied around like Thanksgiving, right? The American holiday season. But it is kind of weird that the market suddenly decides, like, just theoretically, not like practically for a minute, but like suddenly saying, just for this period, we're going to cut by 20%. Because it either means that like you're priced wrongly through the rest of the year, I mean, in effect, or it's just some weird behavioral thing. The real interesting stat I don't know, and which is the key one, is what percentage of Black Friday sales aren't cannibalized. So what percentage is kind of genuine, because genuine sales driven by that, like, oh, I always wanted a coffee machine and now it's 30% off, so I'll get that, rather than I was going to buy a coffee machine anyway and now it's got a 30% haircut on it, so happy days, because one of those is a loss and the other one is a win.
And I suppose to come back to, do retailers need to do it in the first place? That is you're trying to unlock that customer that wouldn't have made that purchase anyway. Yeah, exactly. That should be one of the overarching goals of doing any promotion. Okay, you don't want to sell something too cheaply if you could have got away with a higher price. That hurts, right? How much does it hurt when when you're on the flip side and you buy something more expensive and the prices come down later? So it works both ways for the retailer and also the consumer.
And there's a real, I just thought something tangential but relevant, in that there's a real fundamental point here. Like, most of the guys and girls we work with have been struggling with stock levels. Like, the supply chain has been the real issue, still is. Like, still things are, for the guys who, I've got to stop saying guys, but for the people who are winning in this environment, they're really winning and they're still winning. And we're, I think, only starting to see the end of that tapering or start that tapering demand as people go back to school. So the question is, A, can they even get the stock in time? And B, if they get the stock in, can they get enough to warrant the discounting? So I wonder how much cannibalization's happened because of the lockdown thing, and whether people can actually support it.
And I think it comes back to the fact that you've got to do it to not cannibalize, right? And if you're simply partaking because you're following the crowd, I would, and I'm pretty sure I wrote in an article last year about this that don't do it. Okay, this has got to be a strategic decision. So we look at the data, and I have reservations around promotional events anyway, because a lot of the time promotions cause more harm than good if they're not thought through enough. And this is my bugbear with Black Friday, is that a lot of the time marketing teams get carried away and throw loads of promotions and coupon codes and make it a big event, and absolutely it gets traffic. But this leads back to this kind of cannibalization point and the question of, has it actually contributed to my business? So I'm not here to say, I'm not sitting in front of you today, Rob, and saying, don't do it. I'm sitting here in front of you. Well, actually, I'm standing, but I'm standing in front of you today to say that you've got to work out what are you trying to achieve first, and then see if Black Friday can support you achieving that business goal. Okay?
Yeah. So I think you mentioned a key point there, which is data. So if we take Amazon, who I would argue do it well, probably. I haven't seen their internal numbers, but their share price and market dominance would indicate that it's probably working for them if they've made their own data around the rest of it. And first and foremost, it's a marketing exercise. We covered that, but also their product selection for Black Friday is very clever, in that you can never quite, it's never quite the product you wanted, but it's an analogous product that they couldn't shift, or I imagine, or that kind of stuff. So they're clearly using their data to work out where they're overstocked, trim the inventory, and they do that in two ways: one by product selection, but also time gating the window where the promotion applies. And so that, I think, is where you use something like Black Friday incredibly well. So you target parts of your inventory where you're overstocked relative to where you want to be, and promote it to reduce. And that, for me, I know you have reservations around promotions, but I think that is a very nice and agile way of stock and inventory management. You can always say in hindsight, well, if the price was correct, we wouldn't be there in the first place, but that's not the reality, right?
No, but just to continue that, is that, if you're having conversation with your suppliers earlier price, so you should have already had these conversations with suppliers, right? But you do still have time to unlock products of, right, I historically haven't sold this product, can you give me this product, can I have an exclusive on this product? And we're using these terms like exclusive, or or getting rid of stock that you've struggled to shift other parts of the year. And what you're trying to do is get to a point of offering something that wouldn't have otherwise been available. Okay, because if you're offering something that otherwise wouldn't be available, you're more than likely to unlock to spend that you otherwise wouldn't have got later on in the year. Okay, and all of these contribute to that lack of cannibalization. I mean, I think what did you use in our prep call? Did you say the false sales paradox? Was that the phrase that you came up with?
Right. So I'm going to get this slightly wrong, because this is there's a loss. It's kind of an inversion of the lost sales paradox, in the sense that it really is relevant in piracy, right? So like video game piracy, music piracy, or whatever. And industry veterans will say, like, well, we lose however many bajillion dollars a year because people are pirating stuff. And actually the reality is that people weren't going to buy it because it was priced too expensively, and all the rest of it. And that's the reality of it. It wasn't actually a sale. So the inversion of Black Friday really is the cannibalization thing we're talking about, in that it's, I've gained all these new sales, but you haven't. People were going to buy anyway. So you're basically attributing the cause of the sale to the wrong source, right? You're saying, oh, the discount brought that over the line. Whereas in fact, there was a need for the product anyway. And I just wasn't forced. I didn't have the urgency that I couldn't wait. Right?
I mean, to stay on the piracy bit for a minute, I mean, I think, was it Monty Python that did this phenomenally well? They were really fed up with all of their clips being streamed, I think it was on YouTube and other video platforming products. So what they actually decided to say is, right, you can have it all for free. And this then had the effect of, which it wasn't previously available, and it was of better quality, better sound quality, better visual quality. This actually had the effect of expanding the audience for these particular videos, and then that meant that more people decided to actually buy and wanted to own the physical copies or the digital copies or all the memorabilia. Okay, and exactly the same thing can happen in retail, right? If you offer people something that they wouldn't have already got, or they wouldn't have been able to get other times of the year, you open up the eyeballs on your site, you open up your customer base, and then you build that relationship with them, and then you build that connection, and that's a springboard to sell to them at other points of the year. So, to come back to what's your strategic objectives, one of the strategic objectives should be, I want to grow awareness of my brand, or I want to grow awareness of products. I want to tell people about products that might have not been visible in the past, that I actually sell those products, and, or I want my brand to be portrayed in a certain way, or, or there's many strategic objectives.
I think that's interesting. I'll ask you something around that. So I think what you're effectively saying is that if you want to grow market share, right, in some regard, then probably getting involved is a good thing
in the right way.
Yeah.
Okay? Not getting involved in the wrong way. So I'm jumping around a bit here, but right, if you want to grow, if something really cool that I've seen is that, for example, retailers linking up with influencers, for example, and you could do a cool campaign over Black Friday of linking up with an influencer to, I don't know, make people aware that you have a special offer on a certain product that's not going to be available at other times of the year, and that's a strategic kind of plan to get more visibility and try and grow market share. It's not just slapping a banner on your website saying deals, 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 and spending a ton of money on Google AdWords.
And that actually has become much easier as I think Facebook partnered with BigCommerce around that. So you can, if you've got a BigCommerce store, I mean, a number of our clients are on that platform, you can hit straight into that, attack that market. I mean, that it's interesting, right? Because Instagram is the new kind of, well, it's not even that new anymore. It's been a strong marketing place for a while, to the point that it's becoming more and more heavily regulated. But I think that's a very good way to kind of target new audiences. To say, what should I talk about? I'm going to talk about fishing, because I know fishing, and it could be that you've noticed that basically that the predominance of your market is a certain age group and comes from a certain area, which isn't massively uncommon in something like fishing. So you could coupled with like Black Friday deals to kind of actually entice people through. If you bundle that with, say, an Instagram campaign or increased ad spending or the rest of it, I think that is a really real powerful 1-2 punch. And anecdotally, we see that anyway. I mean, one of our key messages with pricing, we did a whole podcast on it with Manny, is that you need to get your advertising and your pricing strategy singing together, right? So promotion is really where the two traditionally have met. You're talking discounting in terms of pricing, and in terms of pricing as a marketing tool in effect.
But this moves into a territory of trying to do something different from your competition, and whether that be getting an influencer that you wouldn't have normally had. There's many ways that you can differentiate yourselves from your competition, and one of the things which I would like retailers to consider is owning the narrative during the holiday season. So, I can't remember when Amazon started doing their Amazon Prime Day, but it's been for a number of years now, right? And that's a day that Amazon decide that they're gonna basically treat it as their own Black Friday that other people can't, and then they think strategically for that day of what products do I need to shift and why, how can I grow my market share. All of those strategic objectives are built into that day, and they own the narrative, they own all of the marketing in the lead up to it, they own how their website's structured, they own everything, right? And that is a separate day from Black Friday, it's a separate day from Cyber Monday. So what is stopping the retailers out there owning their own narrative during this holiday season? You know, you don't necessarily have to shop on Black Friday. We'll follow your to have sales on Black Friday. We'll follow your fishing example, right? There's only so many fishing retailers online, right? I don't know how big the market is. You probably know it better than I do, Rob, right? But nothing stops those retailers saying, do you know what? This holiday season, I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to have fishing tackle day, okay, right? I'm not a marketer, so you have to work with me here. But I'm gonna pick I don't know, a different Friday, a different Wednesday. It's going to be fishing tackle day, and on that day, I'm going to run special promotions that aren't available at any other time. And your other retailers aren't going to know that's coming. They're not. How are they going to react to that? They're not. You know, you've got a whole strategic objective, and you have a real opportunity on that day to shift stock you wouldn't have otherwise done, grow your market share, generate a bit of a buzz, bit of excitement, and you know, I don't know. Have you ever seen that in the fishing tackle industry? People owning the narrative like that?
No, not really. It's quite a traditional one, I think.
I maybe picked the wrong. But like, if you go in outdoor equipment, sports equipment,
I like it, right? So if it's jumping industries, but if you look at you're a big cyclist, right? So cycle brands will often do discounts around certain events where they've got sponsored riders in. So you get Tour de France discounts or something like that. And then all of a sudden you've got, tying it that way, you're generating good, cool copy because you're like, hey, it's great, everyone in the world loves all this stuff that's going on. The reason I moved to cycling is I could do it in fishing, but it's not. It's not as
sexy.
Relatable.
Not as sexy.
We could talk about the start of the fly fishing season if we want to, but maybe the Tour de France is more vibey.
But I mean, it's about not getting lost in the noise, isn't it? Yeah. So it's owning your own narrative and separating from that noise, and then you can make specific pricing decisions free from what everyone else is doing. Okay, and that might, you know, by the way, that might not be a magic bullet. This might be one of many things you have to do. Okay, but I'd certainly try and encourage retailers to think outside the box.
Because it's not you don't have to go out and make Rob's Super Shop discount day, but you can. It's the tying in of discounting to relevant existing events. So I think literally the best, and I can say it's the best because it's the biggest shopping day in the world. So I think that classifies as the best. Example of this is Singles Day in China, and which is 11th of November, which is the day before my birthday. So, and also Remembrance Day, actually, I mentioned it. But Alibaba have snowballed that into a massive online shopping day, basically, and they did $30 billion in 2018 on that day by building on their platform, right? By building this snowball around it and building this out. Now you're gonna struggle to get to that scale if you're not Amazon or Alibaba or someone with that presence. But there's no reason to not say, well, rather than going in on Black Friday with everyone else, I'm gonna do, I don't know, the start of an important event for my for my audience. So in fishing, it's the game fishing is seasonal, so you could do start the season, start sending promotions out, or end of season as well. Because if you're you get new lines coming through, you want to offload stock. There are different times to do it. So I actually really like the idea of kind of stepping outside of this kind of Black Friday narrative and then picking events that you can kind of tie your brand to and build your brand around.
But also, I mean, I think what I'm trying to get at as well is generate positivity around this, right? I think, you know, how many emails have you already had around Black Friday, holiday sales, end of season discounts, everything must go, you know, all of that. These are quite negative sales. They kind of, it screams a bit of desperation, right? Whereas if you've got something like Amazon Prime Day, it's like, cool, I'm a member of a club, I'm Amazon Prime, only I get this, right? And so whatever industry you're a member of, you know, you have an opportunity to generate a positive vibe around that period that people look forward to.
It's community building, right? It's to go back to the cycling thing. It's like, oh yeah, this Tour de France is on. That's cool. Like everyone's into that. Yeah, maybe I will go get this. Oh yeah, I will get this, whatever. Or I need one of those. Brilliant. And you don't feel, because you're right. It's negative. Like you asked me how many I've seen, and the honest answer is none. But I don't think that's because I haven't been sent any. It's because I just mentally filter them in my inbox. I don't know how you, as an aside, how you run Gmail. There's a promotions tab, and it just seems to be a bucket that eternally fills up, and I don't look at. And sometimes something annoyingly goes into it that I need. So I think your point about kind of key narratives and differentiating yourself away from it is really important, because it needs to be quite a compelling story. Quite a compelling fishing related story, I should probably add, but it needs to be quite a compelling story to actually prompt me to look at that marketing material. And we certainly, like, everyone's bombarded with emails now. We have that struggle even with us, right? Not just, so it's not just retail in general, it's just that we're reaching a point where everyone is emailing you to sell you something the whole time. So unless you're doing something pretty special, it's hard to drive engagement up, I think.
So in terms of, I think we're strongly moving towards we're not saying don't participate, but we're trying to say is own the narrative, work out what your strategic objectives should be. One thing we haven't mentioned is, have you looked at your last year's data? We touched upon data, but have you looked at last year's data? Did you partake in Black Friday or Cyber Monday, and did it work? Okay, and if it didn't, you should really be asking yourself, should I be doing it? You know, I mean, to come back to this false sales paradox, this cannibalization point, I generally don't competitor bash of BlackCurve, but one of the images I saw on one of our competitors' websites, I won't name them, said 64% of shoppers said a big discount would entice them to shop earlier than usual. I mean, like, that's cannibalization. You don't want to shop someone to,
unless it's a decade.
Yeah. Unless you're bringing that car purchase 3 years forward, and you could really do with the 40 grand or 50 grand or whatever. But I just like, look at your data. Did it work last year? Did you see cannibalization? Yes or no? Did you act strategically around this, or did you follow the bandwagon? Because needless to say, if you are a successful business, okay, and you have done phenomenally well, this is still an opportunity for you to take part, but take part from a position of growth, okay? And
I think there's a key point here that we haven't actually said out loud, which is demand is capped, right? Like, it's not. There are only a certain number of people in the world that need a certain number of that thing. And it might be that the demand is everyone in the world, which is a big number, and you'll make a lot of money, well done, but there's still a cap to it, right? So we're getting back to, why are people purchasing, and are they purchasing because they were going to buy it anyway, or are they purchasing because it's a new purchase that they wouldn't have bought otherwise? And then there's an argument that actually maybe that product's mispriced, in that maybe if suddenly, this is the other side of the coin actually of this discounting thing, isn't it? If you suddenly drop a price by 20% and your volume goes overnight, their new sales, aren't you better off dropping that price throughout the year? Like, I mean, there's obviously an optimization point in the rest of it, but realistically, what's the discounting doing?
And absolutely, if that encourages more, if you look at the whole year, you've sold more units. If there are only ever 100 units of this product available in 1 year, and that's the only maximum new amount, you don't want to shift that purchase. You want to be able to actually say, right, this product's performing really well. Hang on a minute, I hadn't thought about purchasing more of those. It's selling like hotcakes. I need to get more. I need to fill the hopper. That's where discounting works. It doesn't when it's a cannibalization, or when it's just shifting the purchasing decision and you do have a cap, that's when it's a big no-no. One of the things that I've seen done really well during the holiday season as well, and actually it works so well for this particular retailer that they've actually adopted it throughout the year. So this is actually, the holiday season is actually quite a good time to test some new pricing strategies, because if it doesn't work, you can always blame it on, it's holiday season fever, right? Okay, but they do bundling. Okay, this was a particular it was a baby product supplier, so like prams and all sorts. I'm having a mind blank. I've had 2 children in quick succession, and the only thing I could think of was a pram. So clearly, anyway. But what they actually tested during the holiday season was, how can I encourage people to increase their basket size? So actually what they did is they created strategic promotions around bundling. So they grouped certain products together and said, right, if you buy 3, 4, 5 products together, we will give you a discount on the 5th product, or we will give you a discount overall. There was a couple of levers that they played, and not only did they do that, but also they assigned these bundles to certain buying personas, right? So like newborn parent, what would a parents when their kids are 2 need? What would the parents need if you've got twins? Like, there were certain bundles that they did really, really cleverly. And then now they've used this the rest of the year. And I already gave the conclusion away, but what it actually did is it encouraged the basket size to increase. So it wasn't a cannibalization effect. It was offering something that they couldn't get from another supplier. So therefore, when you come back to, the consumer couldn't get from another supplier. So when it comes back to, from a pricing decision point of view, okay, fine. You might be scraping loads of prices and going, hang on a minute, I need to match on this product. I need to be more expensive on this and cheaper in this. They've owned that narrative and said, drop the mic. We've created a bundle that you can't get elsewhere. Do you want an easier purchasing life? We've done all the hard work. We've created a bundle that's perfect for you. Bish bash bosh, buy. And it's
generally bundling really works. Like, and it's a really good. It's a really good way of driving up revenue and basket conversion and all the rest of it. And then if you discount at the bundle level, then you can do it in a cleverer way. So you take less. It looks like a bigger discount than it is. You take less of a margin here. It works, and a lot of the reason it works is because as a consumer, I often don't realise the extra bits I need, or it feels like, it's only a tenner more, and then I get extras. I'll give you an example. Recently, I bought a new GoPro, which is why I'm now in 1080, and you can see how weathered I look after 6 months in lockdown. But they had 2 options, and cameras are discounted at the minute for fairly obvious reasons, but you could buy a discounted version or you could buy a bundle. And the bundle was like bits and pieces, but there was a spare battery and a bigger memory card and all the rest of it. And I was like, oh yeah, because last time I was skiing, the battery lasted about 30 minutes because of the low temperature. So actually maybe getting a second one, and if they're going to throw it all in, brilliant. Okay, I'll take that. And I've got a couple of things that I didn't really need, and a couple of things I actually did need, but and it's now on my desk, right? Because of the bundle and the ease of use and the rest of it. So by kind of bundling it together, they've sold things they wouldn't otherwise. They can increase the basket size, and also probably reduce the average margin hit they're taking on a product level, because most of it's probably the same discount on the camera plus the cost, the normal price for the other bits and pieces they've chucked in. So realistically, you're selling 1 product at a discount and 5 products not at a discount, rather than selling 5 products at a discount. If that makes sense.
and yet you haven't cannibalized. They've increased the amount of money you'd spend, which is the beauty.
I definitely wouldn't have bought this stupid head strap that sticks a GoPro on your forehead otherwise.
Very, very sexy. I'll give you a quick anecdote of that. I think just when GoPros were first coming out, I did buy one to take skiing, and I filmed my skiing religiously on the first day. And I got home, and all it was you could hear the thump, 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 thump as the camera kept hitting my helmet, and it was just really, really. I'm probably not a very good cameraman. I'll blame the operative, but yeah,
you need the trick is you need to stick one of those mounts on top of your helmets. That's why these things are used.
And I needed a bundle that sold me a gyro and all of that good stuff to spend more money. So anyway, so I think we've covered a lot of ground there. Was there anything more that you wanted to add, Rob, at all?
No, I think it's. I just think it's a super interesting topic this year because I'm at a complete loss. Realistically, I mean, we'll see it in the data and we'll see what happens. And from our perspective on the pricing side, we kind of react algorithmically. So we did very well with the demand surge into and out of Corona. So that kind of like gives me confidence, I guess. But it wouldn't surprise me if consumer demand is just really low, and maybe we'll get a buy out to help out scheme in the UK or something, where the government gives us all 50 quid to spend on electronic goods.
Buy GoPros to help out. Buy toasters to help out. All of the above, please.
Buy Le Creuset to help out. You heard it here first. That's what I want.
So thank you very much, Rob, for sharing your thoughts today. We've been tackling the question how retailers should approach pricing this holiday season, and I think it's just to summarise. I think it's important that it's going to be very different this year. Okay, I think there's certainly going to be winners and losers, but like with any period, coronavirus or not, you should think strategically about what are you trying to achieve by a promotional event. And I think if you think strategically and work out what your goals are, whether it's coronavirus or not coronavirus, whether we're holiday season or not holiday season, you can have a very successful promotional period. Okay, and I think that is one of the key takeaways. If you own the dialogue, if you don't get lost in the noise, again, you can have a very successful promotional period. If you're just going to partake because you feel that you need to join the bandwagon, I'd seriously stop and think, right, should I do that? Because it could potentially cause more harm than good. And the worst thing you can do is cannibalize sales. The worst thing you can do is just shift the time of spend if they were going to spend that money at another time. You need to offer something that's not available at other times in the year. And then a strategic objective, as we've touched upon, might be, do you know what? I'm going to use this just to increase my email database so that then come 2021, when we might have even more consumer confidence because, do you know what? It's not all doom and gloom and we're doing all right. You might have a better email database to market to. So that might be one strategic objective for this period. So I'm going to say do it for the right reasons. That's all. That's how I'm gonna end. So thank you very much. We've been BlackCurve. This is our podcast, eCommerce Matters. We help e-commerce businesses make pricing decisions. We're available on all major podcasting platforms, Shopify, Apple, and many, many more. See you next time.
Spotify, not Shopify.
Did I say Shopify? Well, we also are on Shopify, but that's our product. Big so commerce, if you skip the podcast and decide to download our product, to be honest, crack on. I think that's
It's probably a better investment of your time. I'd say go and do that.
Thank you very much. See you next time.